Okay, I believe we should be live now. So this is Ori and the Blind Forest Definitive Edition, and I'm going to be running a category called Seinless, Bashless, Stompless. So Ori is a Metroidvania 2D platformer, and there's typically a lot of essential skills you're supposed to collect, and I'm going to skip some of them. So there's a lot of very strange skips right off the bat, so it'll be lots of fun. I'm joined by Shed, who'll be helping with commentary. Hey, Shed.
Hello. Yeah, this run is pretty glitchy, pretty crazy, and Meldon's gonna have to focus at some point, so I'm here to help out and explain some.
But I'm all ready to go. So if you want to count me down.
Let's begin in 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, so we just skipped the prologue, which is really nice because it's long and very sad, and nobody wants to cry at the start of a speedrun.
Oh, we cry at the end of the speedrun when we don't hit our goals. But yeah, this is Ori. We are a cute little leaf spirit running and jumping around. We can't really do much more than that because this is Metroidvania, so we start out with not much to do, and we'll get more and more powerful as we go on, except in this category where we're going to get not quite as powerful as we did. This pickup is called an energy cell that increases our energy resources, which energy is we can spend energy to take certain actions, such as place a save point. This game allows the player to place saves wherever they want. You'll see these little glowy flames that Meldon is placing around the world. Those are saves.
So up there was Sign. Everyone say bye to Sign.
Bye, Sign.
So I just came over to that area to pick up that XP orb. So XP comes in two forms, either from enemies, like we got from that rhino, or XP orbs around the map. And it'll be really important to collect the right amount of XP for some specific level ups throughout this run.
When you collect enough XP, you'll level up, which does a couple things. Notably, it refills all of your health and energy. It causes a large explosion on screen, and also gives you an ability point, which we'll explain in a bit. There was a kind of a neat damage boost. When you respawn for a couple of frames, you don't take any damage. So Meldon used that to land on a jump pad that was behind some spikes, and use that to get back up. Because we skipped Sign. We didn't pick up Sign. And what Sign normally does is on top of being a story important character that follows you around, is also the way Ori can attack. So Meldon literally can't damage anything right now because we don't have Sign. In addition, what's going on right now is there's these keystones. These are pickups that you use to open doors, and they aren't here. They show up once you have Sign, but it turns out that they're actually there for exactly one frame when you reload the game. So Meldon's just saving in the positions that the keystone is and reloading to pick up the keystone. Here we'll use them on the store.
Yeah, so I also did a trick called Save Anywhere, which is a menu storage on that ability menu that you saw for a little while, and I was moving around in the back of it. And then when I level up an ability, the game saves. So I can use that to save anywhere I want. And
even in places you normally wouldn't be able to, and without energy, etc.
Yeah, so I didn't have enough energy to save there, so I had to use that to get that second keystone, because I needed to reload the game to get it. Oops.
Now we're going to do some careful dodging of these slime enemies. Since we can't attack them, we can't kill them, we need to get out of their way, basically. But these enemies are actually pretty smart in where they'll shoot, so it can be pretty difficult to dodge it takes some...
Okay. That's fine.
Yeah, you have enough health, you're fine. So now we are heading down through glades here. We're going to be collecting our next, our first skill, although it's not really the first skill of the game. One thing I want to touch on here real quick is we've been mentioning like health and energy, but you're not really seeing anything on screen. That's because there is a UI for this game, but there's a bind to hide and to hide it and toggle it on and off. And if it's off, the game plays in 0 text boxes. So it's basically skipping like a lot of cutscenes that Meldon would normally have to mash through. So we don't have to do any of that.
Yeah, one of the funny things is if I have the UI on at any of those, Sign will still talk, even though Sign's not here.
Yep. So that skill we picked up is wall jump. It allows us to jump on walls, as you might expect. Ori is a platformer which allows you to jump off of a single wall repeatedly. Here we're going to do another one of those invulnerability damage boosts. and then a normal damage boost to get out of this area.
Yeah, that one makes use of a wall run, which I think we'll see a couple times later on as well. Which, if you are standing on the ground, you do this like cool running animation up walls, and you can use that to do some fancy damage boosts where you normally get knocked back.
Then a jump, so yeah, things like that. Here, this might have looked a little bit strange, like Meldon went off and placed a save to the right, and we're doing some fun dodges around this jumping frog enemy, but we're kind of routing our health and energy to specific points. Because we're a little bit low on both right now, and we need them for things like damage boosts and energy for saving and such like that. So we just need to be careful about exactly where and when we're using those resources.
Yeah, the health and energy routing in this early game is very precise, so that I can actually make it through all of these brambles and slimes and whatnot. And all of that went really well.
So now we're going to be setting up for a glitch coming up that is called key duplication. And basically what's going to happen is we're going to collect some more keystones, but not quite enough to open up a door coming up. And we're going to put all those keystones in the door, and it's not going to open because we don't have enough, and then die while the keys are in that door. And the effect that that's going to have is that we keep the keystones in our inventory when we respawn, but they also spawn back in world, so we can collect those keys again, and it's going to allow us to have way more keystones than we're supposed to, so we can open this door and then have some left over. This is going to serve purposes later on in the run. Basically, we're going to be able to skip some keystones because it turns out that duplicating them here is faster than actually collecting them. And in some cases, there's keystones that we can't collect because of our limited skill set, such as not having sign.
So you can now see that I have 3 keystones, even though I haven't yet picked up any of these keystones, because my save was from before I did that. So now I can go collect all 4 keystones this time.
And while we're heading up here, we're about to head into a sort of a story cutscene that we're going to skip most of it, so you won't get a lot of it. But I want to explain a little bit about this category and its rules. We skip Sign, we skip Stomp, and we skip Bash. That's in the name of the category. But a further restriction is that we have to collect all 6 of the world events that are in this game. There's 3 dungeons in this game, and each dungeon has a key that we need to get to unlock the dungeon, and then each dungeon has an event at the end of it that we need to get for story reasons. So 6 events, and this category requires that you collect all 6 of them before you complete the game.
Also, this brief set of cutscenes is a good time for any donations if there are some.
We did, in fact, have a donation come in from Little Sharky, and they say $40 for the sub 40 SBS. Let's go, Mel! Let's go, Mel!
Thanks, Sharky.
And we do have some bid wars coming up. One is actually for the very next run, where you can choose the voice language for Odin Sphere. Currently, neither is in the lead, but you can choose to donate towards English or Japanese, whichever you prefer to hear. So please do so if you have the means and the desire.
Coming up real soon, we're going to see another use of the save anywhere trick. We're going to save in the middle of this cutscene of picking up the skill here. And what that's going to allow us to do is gain control when we reload the game. So this cutscene will still play, but Meldon has control of Ori and just kind of runs off to the screen to the right here. And something important that's happening there is there's actually a wall in Meldon's way. You can see it there as we pan across, and it wasn't there when it was off screen. So that's a neat little skip, both skipping the cutscene to save some time and just running through that wall.
So I've picked up Charge Flame, which is the next skill. And normally Charge Flame is supposed to emanate from Sign. But when you don't have Sign, that's kind of a problem. So there's a weird glitch where if I save the game and then either die or reload, I can use Charge Flame from the location of my save. It basically acts like Sign, and that's very important for using Charge Flame, which is this explosion that you can see.
To note, Charge Flame also costs an energy, so that adds some further like routing and such in small doses. Here's another cutscene skip. We're going to use the Save Anywhere trick to move behind the ability menu, start this cutscene, save in the middle of the cutscene and reload, and then the game thinks the cutscene's over, so we can just continue. This one doesn't lock our camera, though, fortunately.
Yeah, there's a little slow zone there, but thankfully I actually don't come back through that area, so I don't have to worry about it.
Now we're into Blackroot Burrows. If you played the original version of this game, the non-definitive edition, this area is new to the definitive edition. It's kind of this dark cave. It's got some neat backstory and stuff to it. It's also introduces 2 brand new skills to the game, one of which is very, very important, both for going fast and also, in this category's case, essential for even completing the game. So we are going to want to collect it, but doing so is a little bit slow, compounded by the fact that we don't have sign.
So I mentioned that things go to sign sometimes. This orb is one of those, so I have to do that same save and reload trick so that the orb will actually be attracted to where I am. And I'll have to do that once more later on.
Actually carrying the orb.
Yeah. That earlier segment I skipped by kind of backtracking is really slow.
Area is very cycle-based, as you can see. We have to wait for lasers, we have to wait for moving platforms, things like that. There's a little bit of manipulation that Meldon can do to make some of the platforms line up nicer. So you'll see them pause in certain spots and wait, and maybe even move the camera. Yeah, you're doing that right now, ducking the camera down. Also, these slimes won't kill you. They only deal 1 damage when they shoot you, but they do give quite a bit of knockback. So if any of those projectiles had hit Meldon there, they would have been knocked off the platform and have to wait for the full cycles again. So nicely done dodging all that.
Yeah, we'll see if this cycle actually lines up. SBS can be weird and it doesn't always work. It didn't quite work.
Oh, unfortunate.
Very sad. But there's just, the loads in this area don't always happen in the right way in SBS because of all of the shenanigans that you're doing with the orb.
Reloading and waiting and yeah. Small skip there, and now we're going to watch a cutscene that lifts the darkness in this cave. Typically, most categories will actually skip this cutscene using the save in the middle of the cutscene trick and everything, but doing so in this case would cost an energy. Or not an energy, an ability point, because we need to use that save anywhere trick, and we don't have any because of the various tricks we've done beforehand. So we actually need to watch this cutscene. That'll happen a couple more times as well in this category, where there's things we could do but we can't because we need to save our ability points for essential tricks later on.
Yeah, ability points end up being the very important resource for the majority of skips in this game, as well as a number of out of bounds. So I'm about to collect Dash. Oh,
oh no!
Fall in a pit first. That's fine.
Now we collect Dash. Dash, as it might sound, is fast. Very fast.
So I'm going to immediately do a trick called dash gliding. So if I release 2 neutral inputs and jump before a dash is finished, I can maintain my dash momentum in midair, which normally isn't possible. And for the early part of this game, that's the essential movement to move through the air. Dashing on the ground is still faster when possible, though.
Here, this is a boulder escape sequence, and we're going to use this boulder to crush Ori underground. So this is an out-of-bounds trick, and then that save point that Meldon just placed is also out of bounds. So we're going to reuse that. So we've saved out of bounds and come back inbounds to collect this health cell and this spirit well, which is basically a teleporter. You can also save on them to refill your health and energy, but we're not going to do that in this case.
Yeah, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to re-save at that. I have this ability called Rekindle, which lets me reuse save points. And when I save again here and die, I'm going to respawn back underground. And I can just continue dashing to the edge of here, fall down through the floor, and I'm in Grotto.
Yeah, so if you haven't played this game, it's not obvious. That skipped tens of minutes of gameplay of going around through like 2 other areas and then coming back down here. But we just did that out of bounds with the rock and fell through into here, and it's so good. It's so convenient. There's another trick you could have done to skip that long sequence, but it's longer than this one, and you're allowed to use out of bounds in this category, so we're going to.
It's also not possible. Botted
is it?
energy.
Ah,
Well, I can't kill the Frankie.
yes, because you don't have sign. Correct.
Yeah. Not having Stein is kind of a big deal.
As it turns out. So here's another
This is our-
skill. This is our next one. It's double.
Yeah, so this lets me do a double jump, which is nice for dodging, for movement, oops, and for getting up walls a little faster. So it turns out double jumping on walls is a little faster than just wall jumping up them. So I'll do that in a number of locations where I just need to climb the wall as fast as possible.
These walls, however, something to note is the walls in Moon Grotto are really kind of finicky in some spots. They are true to how they look, like the actual collision box for them follows the line of the wall. It's not flat or anything, so it can really screw with you sometimes. But it also allows for some neat little tricks like this one, where you can jump off of a very small portion of wall and then do a precise double jump to get up on top of that platform, skipping the left half of this area. So here's another cutscene skip as well. This time, instead of using an ability point, where you're going to use that rekindle that you mentioned to rekindle in the middle of a cutscene. It's the same trick. It's just rekindle instead of an ability point.
Whenever possible, I'm going to do that because it doesn't cost an ability point to skip a cutscene. But there's a lot of cutscenes it's just not possible to do it on. So there's another one.
A little bit of weirdness here where Gumo's just kind of sitting with that lever. It's because we skipped this cutscene. Also, now there's multiple Gumos and the weird. This is the water vein. It's the key to the first dungeon. So now we pick that up. That's 1 out of 6. Done.
And normally I'm supposed to come back through this, or I'm supposed to come to this area initially from the other direction. And that's why I just skipped that cutscene where normally I would fall down through that bridge. And
that's why we're seeing Gumo kind of everywhere around here, is because these are cutscenes that are supposed to play when you're heading down. But because of that out of bounds we did, we're now watching them backwards. Some precise jumps because we cannot kill these spiky brambles.
that detour is just for that extra energy cell. So all total I need 5 health, which I've gotten up to, and I also need 5 energy for a trick later on. And I think that's my 4th energy? Yeah. So I still need to collect 1 more energy cell to have all of that.
So I mentioned right now that, or I mentioned before that we collected the first event, the key to the first dungeon, the water vein. And typically you'd then go up to the Ginso tree, the dungeon that it opens, and go do it. But the Ginso tree has Bash in it. We're not allowed to collect Bash. It turns out that the Ginso tree is really hard if you don't collect Bash, and in fact it's impossible right now. So we're going to need to come back to it later. And for now, instead, what we're going to do is a little bit of a cell collection loop. We're just going to go on a kind of an adventure, collect some more ability cells, collect some more energy cells, and also do some more glitches. So what's going to happen now is we collected this teleporter. We're going to teleport back to the first area the game plays. Now we're going to do a glitch called warp displacement. We're going to gain control during this teleport animation via saving on the teleporter at the same time, and run off to the left, stand on this wobbly platform, and that warps our teleport below the teleporter that we actually tried to go to, and in this case, into the floor, which then Meldon fell down through the floor and collected an ability cell that we normally would not be able to collect. And in addition, also got over here where we want to be. If that wasn't glitchy enough for you, we're about to do another glitch called a Terraclip. And Terraclip is, in essence, a way that we can spend an ability point, level up a single ability, and out of bounds through any wall we want at all. You just do that trick that Meldon did there, dashing and saving at the same time, and then unload the wall that you want and die. And when you respawn, you'll keep the speed from the dash that you saved during, and just go straight through the wall. And we can do that on literally any wall in the game. In fact, we're going to do it again right here.
Yeah, so I only came over to this area because I wanted that energy cell that I grabbed there. It's the only thing useful over here.
Right. This is Thornfelt Swamp. It's normally the area that you would collect Stomp in. But this is Seinless, Bashless, Stompless, so we can't collect Stomp. We just came over here for that energy cell. Now that we have that, we're going to head off to the left side of the map. The world of Ori and the Blind Forest is kind of split in two. You got the right side, which is pretty big, and then the left side. And the left side is gated. You normally need Stomp in a casual playthrough to get to the left side. There's some speedrun tricks we can do that aren't particularly glitchy that require Bash. And we don't have Stomp or Bash. So we're going to need to do some glitches to get to the left side.
So before I go there, there's 2 more cells over here in this starting area that now that I have double jump I can get. So I'm going to go back and get those. And then it turns out the left area is through the area that we did that key dupe way earlier on, Spirit Caverns. So I'm going to head back to that area and then start my journey into... Oop. You really don't want to be cooperative, do you?
Really getting in the way.
I like how that second Frankie also tried to get up onto that platform.
But yeah, if we've got another donation or announcement, now is a good time for one more.
We had a $5 donation come in from Gothco, and there was no comment, but that $5 did go to the English voices for the Odin Sphere bid war. So if you'd like to hear more English, then continue to donate towards that, or if you'd like to hear Japanese, all you have to do is bid $6 or more, and it will switch. So that will close before the run begins. But in the meantime, we've got this awesome Ori and the Blind Forest run going. So
Sure do. So now we're doing some what might look like a little bit of a funky route. Again, this is due to our limited resources. We only have the 5 energy to work with, and we're going to need to do a pretty complex sequence of tricks. So here we're going to Terraclip through this door, and in doing so, we're going to unlock an ability on this ability tree called Charge Dash. And Charge Dash is an upgrade for the dash skill that allows it to, you can spend an energy and home in on an enemy nearby. But it turns out that if you cancel the Charge Dash and you dash toward the enemy above you, you get that cool, like, rocket jump is literally what we call it. It's just a very, very high-speed vertical movement. And that was kind of a small one. We're about to do it again and show off exactly how powerful these rocket jumps can be. Boom. All the way up through this massive area. Oh, no! That should be good. You can make it up there.
Yeah, that was
cool.
almost
Still
really bad.
So here's this little cutscene. This cutscene showing you that there's some breakable rocks up there that you would normally stomp and drop on this giant bird's head. This bird is very in our way. She wants to kill us very, very badly. So we need to break those rocks, but we don't have any way of redirecting. We need to break those rocks by redirecting a spider shot, which Meldon just did, and the only way we had to do that was Charge Flame. Nicely done. That's a very hard trick. The setup for that is extremely precise, on top of both in positioning and timing for when to release the Charge Flame. And on top of that, there's actually a wall in the shot's way, so Meldon needed to run away very quickly once they realized they got it and deload the wall.
Yeah, that's that funny movement, like dashing into a little nook and making sure I'm in specific locations at the right time. So now I have Glide, which is a really nice, fun skill that basically just slows down your falling rate. So you can see I can use it to slow down my falling.
We also needed to do another rocket jump right there because we have no other method of getting up to this this teleporter. You're normally supposed to bash off of that lantern that's hanging down from its ledge, but we don't have bash. Now we're in Misty Woods. This area is really, really cool and really, really hard. Everything you see here that damages Ori deals 3 damage, and Meldon has 5 health. And if that's not scary enough, there's actually a required damage boost later on. So any damage that Meldon takes here is basically deadly. And we don't have Bash to help out our movement, so it's really kind of sketchy and precise. And we ended up needing to use some pretty creative feather and rocket jump movement.
Yeah, rocket jump's the only way I have right now to get any amount of height, so it becomes very necessary in order to actually get up some of those sections with spikes.
So the other gimmick of Misty Woods is that the area changes as you progress through it. So you like hit a dead end and go back, and now the area is different than what it was when you came before. And the way the game actually does that is it straight up unloads sections of the games and reloads sections in. We're going to abuse that fact. Right below us here, we can't get to it quite yet, but right below us is actually the end of the game. And we're going to out of bounds through this wall using a Terra clip that we've done a couple times now. We're not going to do the end of the game yet. We're just going to leave it loaded.
Well, the end of Misty.
Yeah, the end of Misty, right. But we're going to leave it loaded and fall through the void that's to its right because there isn't an area of the game. And it turns out we fall all the way down to Forlorn Ruins, the second dungeon of the game. And we also fell straight into the final room of Forlorn Ruins. So we beat Forlorn Ruins without ever getting its key or doing the dungeon at all.
I'm all done! Woo!
So there's this cutscene playing as well, and Meldon's going to use this save anywhere, held, and save in the middle of this cutscene to skip it and not have to do the escape sequence that would normally play. Then you'd have to like get out of the dungeon while it's falling down around you. But you can save in the middle of the cutscene and reload and end up over here in the dungeon, not even in the same room you were in, just over here. It's a little weird.
So the mechanic in Forlorn is this gravity orb, and I can use these platforms or some of the curved surfaces to change the direction of my gravity.
We're also going to do another key dupe here real quick. There we go. But yeah, so we're going to use a similar trick to the warp displacement you saw earlier, but instead of changing the direction, or instead of changing where we're going, we're going to carry the left-facing gravity from the dungeon out of the dungeon and teleport with left gravity into Valley. And now we're falling back through Misty Woods, except it's not here, so we're just kind of falling through the void.
The part that is still here, though, is the part that I left.
Which is the end of Misty Woods.
Yep. So with that, I just skipped all of the rest of Misty, and now I just need to carry this orb to the end.
But carrying the orb is slow, so we're gonna not carry the orb. We're gonna have it sort of sit on our back like this, and we can do all of our fancy dash movement and everything instead of slowly plodding along with the orb on our back. That's a funky little glitch called hands-free that is basically caused by the game freaking out when you pick up two orbs at once.
Yeah, you're not really supposed to. You're not supposed to get two orbs in the same location. But there is the Gumon seal.
That is the key to Forlorn Ruins, which is the dungeon that we have already completed by falling through the void into the end of it. So now we're done with Forlorn Ruins. We have its key and its event, and we don't need to do anything further with it. We also had the water vein from earlier, as Meldon is off camera, running around. It's fine.
Kind of broke things a little.
But with that collection, we're now at 3 out of 6 of the rolled events that we need. We're going to go to a 4th by floating gently up on the wind. Never mind, we're going to rocket jump up gently through the wind, up into Sorrow Pass, where our next world event is going to be. Sorrow Pass is kind of a neat area as well. We're going to do some clever rocket jumps and such, and some more glitches to get up through it way faster than actually doing any of the intended stuff here. This one that Meldon is setting up for is incredibly precise, but there's a pretty good setup for it, so it shouldn't take too long. Gonna have that frog nicely done. Using a rocket jump and the way the frog's aggro works, we got it to shoot the ceiling for us there and let us continue floating up to the top half of Sorrow instead of having to do an extremely long and convoluted path off to the left. Here, this is a funny glitch called the Ghost Door. You normally see this way earlier in the game, but Meldon just kind of went through the door there. And how that works is the door is not there for a moment, basically. Oh no.
Frog's not cooperating.
Killed by a frog.
There we go. Needed that frog to break that floor that you can kind of see in the background behind this menu.
Because we don't have...
Oh, hi, Sign.
Oh, hi, Sign. How nice of you to talk to us from Glades, where he's on the other side of the world. So we came over here to collect a skill. This is Charge Jump. It's a very powerful upwards jump that does a lot of damage. It can break some things. It's a little bit tough to see behind this very long save anywhere that Meldon is doing, but we're holding this save anywhere to do a trick called Terror Break, where we save next to this ceiling that we normally can't reach, and then die while charge jumping. And when we respawn, we sort of keep the charge jump hitbox for a moment, and that breaks the ceiling that's in our way. And now we're going to float up to the top of Sorrow.
Yeah, so there's another cutscene skip coming up for our next event, the Sunstone, which is the key to the 3rd dungeon. So that's why I'm keeping this save anywhere up for that. And then finally after that, you'll actually get to see gameplay again.
Yep, so Sunstone, the key to the last dungeon in the game, and our 4th world event. So we still have 2 more to get. We need to complete the 1st dungeon, and we need to complete the last dungeon, and then we'll be done. But doing so is going to take. But turns out the charge jump, that skill we collected, the big upwards jump, is exactly what we need to be able to complete the 1st dungeon. So now we're going to go do that.
Yeah, the 1st dungeon is very vertically oriented, especially in the latter part of it. So having the ability to actually gain height with charge jump is very nice.
It's supposed to be completed with Bash, but as I've mentioned before, but we're not allowed to collect that.
And my XP looks like it's all right.
Yeah, so you want to talk about that for a moment as well?
Yeah, so I mentioned at the beginning that the XP route is very important, and I've been doing all of these time to level ups to refill my health and energy, but the end of the XP route is actually the most important part. So at the end of Ginso, or towards the very end of it, there's a trick where I need to level up off of a Frankie that drops 9 XP, and I've already collected around 1,000 XP, so it's very precise, and I have to continue collecting a very precise amount throughout here in Ginso in order to actually hit that mark correctly.
To reiterate, we're hitting a 9 XP window after collecting 1,000. It's kind of nuts, actually. But yeah, this is Ginso. We're just going to kind of progress through it using charge jumps and rocket jumps to go through it a bit faster. There's a puzzle coming up where you have to move some blocks around that redirect shots and such, but we're just going to skip it by saving and then pushing a block on top of our save point and then respawning, and that pushes us into the floor. So that's about to happen right here. There's also a mini-boss that we have to fight that can take quite a bit of time.
Or not.
Unless you do that.
It turns out at this point in the game with charge jump and charge dash, I can do a lot of damage, so.
Very quickly. So we duped some keys, so we have some extra, but we're going to collect a couple keys here as well. Those deep keys we have are just letting us skip some of the longer to collect ones. Like, there's one off to the left in this room that we're just going to not get, for example.
And there's Bash.
There's Bash. Bye, Bash. See you later. Or not. So yeah, Bash, if you haven't seen this game before, Bash is a skill that allows you to grab enemies, projectiles, and some environment objects like lanterns. You grab them, you throw them in one direction, yourself in the other. So it's both you can redirect projectiles, you can move enemies around, you can move yourself around. It's very powerful and very fun and very iconic for this game, which is exactly why this category exists. It's trying to see if we can beat the game without collecting Bash, or Sign, or Stomp. And it turns out we can.
And normally you're supposed to use all of those like lanterns and things to get around, but charge jump and a couple of damage boosts allows bypassing that.
Here's that trick we were talking about as we were coming into Ginso. This is the core of the tree and it's corrupted, so we need to clear the corruption out. There's 2 brambles that we need to break, basically. But the one on the right is near impossible for us to break with our current skill set. So Meldon is trying to hit a very specific XP window here, running off to the right to respawn some enemies, to try and level up at a precise time and use the level up explosion to break both of the sides of the corruption at once. That was a little spooky.
It's fine.
Here we go. Perfect. And now that we've done that, we've cleared the corruption, and we can start the Ginso escape. Some of the most beautiful music in the game. Probably the first like real hard bit of the game when you're playing and casually as well. Really tests your skill in using all of your abilities in Bash in particular. We don't have Bash, so it's even harder now. But we do have Charge Jump, and that's going to make it possible to even do this. And a fun little rocket jump there. I love that one. But yeah, so coming up at the end of this escape is a very, very difficult sequence of damage boosts.
Yeah, that might have ruined it.
Yeah, I'm not sure you can do it now anymore with that
Nope.
damage. We can try.
No, I was hoping for a health drop from the Frankie, but
Yeah, so there's a section where just the entire corridor is covered in spikes, and Melden's going to need to take some damage and use the charge jumps to get through it. But that means we can't take any damage before we get there. And this water's chasing us, so we can't really go slow. Not that we want to anyway. But
yeah, the water also rubber bands, which makes this even harder because if you go fast, you don't even get like a reprieve from the water. It just follows you.
Alright, this is the hard part right here. Nice.
Yeah, alright.
No, not quite. Unfortunately.
The game didn't want to cooperate.
I believe. Third try. Try or something. What up? No, not quite high enough, unfortunately.
You can now see why this is way more difficult. Normally when you get to that part in the Ginso escape, it's the last easy bit. You just have to bash off the lanterns, but I can't use those lanterns and there's just spikes everywhere.
Definitely a pain point for this category, as you might see. It's just kind of like you can have a great run and then this section just hacks you.
There we go.
There we go. Nicely done. All right, Ginso escape complete. And with that, we've collected our 5th world.
So we're almost done. Just have the final dungeon, which is Mount Horu. We already have the key to it. I just have to get there. We're back in Swamp, and again, there's really nothing
mandatory text box in the.
Oop, that's the wrong button.
So there's actually kind of a funny thing that happens during this little cutscene there that if you skip that text box via having the UI off, Ori kind of stands there without control for like 10 seconds. It's kind of terrible. But if you skip it manually, then it's fine. Here we're going to do the Terra clip that we did earlier, except we can't die in the same spot because we cleaned the water. That's what doing the Ginso escape does, is that the water is no longer poisonous throughout the world. So we had to go swim down a little bit further to hit something that would actually kill us.
I also had 5 health there, which means that I got 4 health drops from enemies that died as I finished the Ginso escape.
Nice. Alright, so we're going to head to the last dungeon now, because that's the only thing left for us to do. But walking is slow, so we're going to do something else. You remember that warp displacement trick we did earlier? Here is a significantly more powerful version of it. We kind of didn't move very far for the last one. But this time, we're going to move an extremely far distance from the actual teleporter that we clicked on. And if Meldon did it right, we end up right outside the final dungeon. Beautiful. So yeah, Mount Horu. Very, very difficult section. It's a volcano, lots of lava, some pretty difficult puzzles in some cases, lots of precise movement, and it's really a test of any speedrunner's skill. But if Meldon does this, that was Horu. Congratulations, we're done with Horu. It's over.
So that's a trick called door orb. So if you go through a door on the very first frame you load in, the door will take you to a different location that's door specific. And for that door, it happens to just be the end of the dungeon. So that's it. This is Warmth.
This is the 6th world event, and we've collected it, and it starts the final escape sequence. So Meldon just needs to get through this, and that is the game. But this section is difficult with our current skill set. We don't have Sign, we don't have Bash, we don't have Stomp. This is hard. This is very hard. It's hard with those skills, and we don't have them, so kind of a focus moment. This is the hardest thing here. Cool. Nice and clean. These fish in the water coming up will kill Meldon on contact and really, really want you. So we're gonna wait around to get them in a better spot and try not to touch the fish. Oh god. Oh no.
That fish was not being nice. I got a bad cycle there of the fish.
Say, that's one of the worst positions I've seen for them like ever.
Yeah, I had that once in practice and I died.
They're not quite RNG, but they are a little bit dependent on.
Oh, all right.
Oh well. Oh.
Speaking of walls that don't. Speaking of walls that are exactly like they look, that wall is really hard to jump off of.
There's like 2 spots maybe at all. But yeah, the fish are dependent on your movement through the rest of the escape, and with the things that Meldon needs to do, it's basically out of their control. Okay. Alright, fish. We got you this time.
I don't even. I don't know what that cycle is.
You're out of breath.
We're gonna wait for the fish to come back. I need the fish to be here moving away. There we go.
Yay. The other one's fine, question mark? Nice dodge. Alright, we're gonna use charge jump to jump over a trigger to make this last room much easier. We can just go through it without a large bird attacking us. A precise wall jump there, and up through this.
And that's the end of the escape.
Not quite done yet. There's a sequence of cutscenes basically explaining a lot of story that we haven't seen any of yet through the run. But Meldon just has to hold right, and then the run is officially over in about 20 seconds or so. Maybe longer than that.
In like a minute 20?
Is it really that long? Jeez, never feels
Yeah,
that
I have to watch the whole cutscene.
long. Oh no.
So, thanks everyone for watching this. Thanks, Shed, so much for helping with the commentary. There's definitely some really tricky parts of this run that are hard to talk through.
It's also hard to explain everything anyway. There's so much we didn't talk about. This game
Yeah.
is so complicated. It's
If you enjoyed this, definitely check out other Ori speedruns. A lot of them are a little easier to watch and explain and understand than this. It's also just a really awesome game, so you should definitely check it out. And now we're gonna meet the character that we haven't seen yet. Spoilers.
extremely important to the story.
Yeah,
But we don't
and
know
then
where.
as soon as I walk behind this tree up here, I'll lose control, and that's the end of the run. So time is right here.
GG. Actually, a rather good run, to be honest. If you take away the Ginsos.
Yeah, the 2 final escapes are definitely very tricky and give me a little trouble. But otherwise,
Solid
went
run,
quite well.
GG.
So if you're interested in Ori speedrunning, check out our Discord. The community is amazing. There's a lot of categories that are easier to learn and get into than this. I think there's a link on speedrun.com to the Discord. There's also an Ori randomizer, so check that out. You can go to orirando.com for that.
The randomizer is fantastic. Like, it's one of the best ones I've ever.
So I'll constantly plug that. And thanks to the small but amazing group of SPS runners that have joined me in this strange and bizarre category. Y'all are awesome. And that's all for Ori and the Blind Forest.
Thank you very much. That was an amazing run. I've actually never seen that before, so that was really cool to watch you do all those tricks. And GG.
Thank you.
So as we watch this play out, we will see the end, I guess, and then have a little bit of a break before our next run, but it shouldn't be too long. We do have that bid war still going. If you'd like to hear English or Japanese, please donate towards that. One or the other.